Welcome to A-Star Science. This is part of our GCSE Must Know series. In this particular case, we're looking at chemistry topics for GCSE. These are the things that come up all the time on the exams, things that if you master them, you're guaranteed to get a very, very good grade. So for today's topic, we're going to be talking about the parts of an atom. Okay, parts of an atom. So when it comes to the parts of an atom, we need to understand that there are three basic parts of an atom. We have the protons, which are a positively charged particle. We have the neutrons, which have no charge. We do that, no charge in the neutrons. And then we have the electrons, which are negatively charged particles that you find in shells on the outside of the atom. Okay, so when it comes to these different parts, you need to know some basic things about them. You need to understand the names of what we'll call the subatomic particles. Which we just talked about. We need to know the charges. We need to know the mass of each one. And we need to know the locations. So the three subatomic particles, as we just said, are the protons, the neutrons, and the electrons. The charges on a proton, as we can see, is a +1 charge. And we want to put a number, +1. Okay, I don't like my 1. Let me change that. +1. Just put a normal 1. The charges on a neutron, as we said, is no charge. Okay, 0 or neutral. And the charges on an electron is -1. -1. Okay, so the protons and electrons have oppositely charged, equal amount of charge, but oppositely charged. Now, how about the masses? Well, the masses are all relative to the protons. So the mass of a proton we're going to call 1. And the units for those people that are interested, you don't need to know this for GCSE, but they're in AMU, which is atomic mass units. So a proton weighs 1 AMU, and a neutron weighs approximately the same as a proton. An electron is so small that for your exam, you can put 0. Okay? Or you can write very small, and you'll get a mark for that. Because an electron has very, very little mass, it's relative to a proton and a neutron, it's very small. Now, how about the locations where we would find them? Well, protons are found in the center of an atom, what we call the nucleus. Neutrons as well, they're also found in the nucleus. And electrons are found in the shells. okay, which are the orbits around an atom. So here you can see the protons and neutrons in the center of the atom, and the electrons are on the outside of the atom. Now, one of the other important parts of an atom is to understand how you can determine the number of protons and neutrons. So if you get a periodic table, which is a list of all the elements known to mankind at this time, it will list, let's take nitrogen, for example, which is an N as a symbol, and it will have a mass of 14 and an atomic number of 7. So the largest number we call the relative atomic mass, and the small number we call the atomic number. Atomic number. Its correct name is actually the proton number, and that will give us a hint of what we're going to use it for. So if we're looking for the number of protons in an atom, that is going to be equal to the atomic number. If we're looking for the number of electrons, that is going to be equal to the number of protons. And if we're looking for the number of neutrons, that is going to equal the atomic mass minus the atomic number. So for nitrogen in this case, which we see at the top there, nitrogen, how many protons will it have? Well, we said we look at the atomic number. So it's going to have 7 protons. And how many electrons? Well, the protons equal the electrons. So that's going to be 7. Let's get rid of that. 7. And the neutrons, we said, is the atomic number, atomic mass minus the atomic number, which is also going to be 7. So if I was to draw that as an atom, I would put 7 protons. And what's the charge? Positive charge. 7 neutrons. They have no charge, so that's neutral. Shade that in, no charge. And they're all in the nucleus. And around that nucleus, we're going to have 7 electrons, which I'm going to indicate as an X. In chemistry, we use X's to indicate electrons. And what we're going to learn later on is that the first shell can hold 2 electrons in an atom, and only 2. But the second shell can hold up to 8. And when you draw electrons, you tend to put them in pairs. Okay? So as a recap of what we've learned today about the parts of an atom, we go back up to our screen. We learned that the charges, the masses, the locations, and the names of the parts of an atom, the subatomic particles, the protons, the neutrons, and the electrons, their charges, their masses, and locations. And then we learned how we would get that information from a periodic table of elements, whereas the number of protons equal the atomic number, the number of electrons equal the number of protons, and the number of neutrons equal the atomic mass minus the atomic number. And at the end, you should be able to look at any element on the periodic table and then be able to draw it out like we did here in this diagram. This is A-Star Science Tutors, GCSE Must Know Chemistry Series.